Dave, a game with so much at stake for both teams. It was a great advert for League Two. What did you make of it today?
Yeah, listen, a good game, and probably in normal circumstances, a 2-2 is probably a result that both teams would potentially see acceptable, if you like. But in the current circumstances and climate, if you like, it was obviously important for 3 points for either team. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case, certainly from our perspective. But I suppose you look at how games develop, and on 80 minutes or whatever, if it being 2-1 down, would you take a point? I think you probably would. So 2 tough away trips, like I say, to be undefeated in both of them is a plus. It's tinged with disappointment because of how the league table looks and how important those 3 points would have been.
I mean, it was such an emotional rollercoaster during the game. Does it feel like a point gain given the late goal, or does it, given the control you had in the first half, does it feel more like 2?
No, cause I spoke about this in terms of we warned at half time that we never felt that it was going to be that comfortable. You need to look at what happened at the home game. Played a very similar, or ran a very similar course, if you like. They started 3-5-2 at our place. We played really, really well and got ourselves 2 goals in front. They changed to 4-3-3 in the second half by putting Mellish into midfield and made it more of a compete and deal with things. The disappointment for me is we didn't deal with that at the start of the second half, and sometimes you just got to dig in and sort of we matched systems. We made it simple for them, for our lot, and it was a case of man for man. Look the person straight in the eye and say, I'm going to come out on top of that battle, and we didn't do that, and that's the biggest disappointment. We have to then do 2 things. You've got to show that competitiveness in terms of dealing with it, you against your opposition there in terms of what they do, and then if we're good enough, get the ball down and play. They were chasing and putting pressure on. Well, we know, because we do it ourselves, that if you get that slightly wrong, or you're playing against a team that get 2 or 3 passes, you can play through that. We didn't show enough of that, and what you need to show it is in the big games, the games that count. Because if people are going to improve and this club's looking to move forward, then they want to make sure that they're here and they can come and step up, whether it be levels or whether it be in these, like I say, these games are the ones that you want to play in. So you work hard all season to get yourself in a position where the games have meaning at the back end of the season. These are the meaning games, and I would have liked to see more control, more bravery to say, give me the ball, I want to take the ball, especially in midfield areas, because that's what your job is. And then if that's not the case, then put the ball into good areas and make them, turn them a little bit. We had good opportunities on the counter, but we didn't come out in I suppose them moments that potentially could have won us the game. That's the biggest disappointment. We showed real guts to, when we did go 2-1 down, to go and get that equaliser, which again is something in the past 2 games that will serve us really well. But how we got into that situation, like I said, was disappointing.
Preparations can hardly have been helped by the loss of Carl Wootton, who's obviously been such an important player for you. How much did that change in terms of how you approach this game without the big man up front? Because it did change the way in terms of how you usually play.
It does, but that's part and parcel of football. There are hurdles that you need to jump over. I've said this before. That's why the depth of our squad becomes important. And as I've said, as much as there's a disappointment with all of us in terms of Woods, and there's a disappointment with him, disappointment with one person brings opportunity for other people, and they've got to make sure they take that opportunity. And it will be the same with any player in any position, whether it's an injury, a suspension, whatever it might be, a loss of form. Other people get chances, and they have to go and take them, which I'm sure with what we've got in the dressing room we'll do that.
In terms of that injury for him and for Ryan Rydell, what is the latest on those two?
Listen, Woods is a bit of a shock to everyone. To be fair, he tweaked his knee when he got fouled early on in the Gillingham game, 15 minutes, and then has completed the whole game. Knee swollen up on the bus on the way back over the next sort of 12 hours, if you like, and the next morning, which wasn't a huge concern with how we sort of saw the incident and whatever else not. He's been for a scan, and to everyone's, I suppose, shock really, he's nicked the meniscus. So we've seen a specialist tomorrow, and we'll have more clarity in terms of what that looks like. Like I say, it was a big shock because he feels fine. He's completed 80 minutes with, if that was the incident when it happened, which it had to be, he's completed another 80 minutes with that injury. So we weren't expecting it. With Ryan, again, a freak injury, no one near him. We felt he'd be okay to play, to be honest, but prior to the game did a little bit and he wasn't quite ready, and we're still feeling stuff. So especially with the nature of the game and what it was, we didn't want to risk anything there. We hope that he can be back for the weekend, but again, that's a waiting game really, more than anything else, to see how quickly that sort of settles. So better news in sort of his diagnosis, if you like, and fingers crossed he can be ready at the weekend, because we need everyone. So then we've got decisions to make and choices to make in terms of how we go. Whereas with players out, especially down that side, we're a little bit limited in terms of what we've got.
Where does this leave things for you now? Obviously, 4 points off third, 5 points off second. Is it just a case of winning the last 3 games and seeing where it takes?
It's a case of win Saturday. Like I say, in terms of we can't control anything outside of us. What we are, I suppose, reliant on is, first and foremost, we have to win 3, and then we have to hope that the teams above us lose some. But listen, it is about winning Saturday and seeing where you are after that, because fundamentally the way it works at the moment, we're not in the playoffs yet. So one team out of the 8 that are fighting is gonna miss out. So first and foremost, we have to win Saturday, and we see where that takes us. Once that happens, hopefully, we then look to what next Saturday after brings, and that's the focus at the minute. As was the focus tonight, it was about winning. We've not managed to do that, but we've not lost, and we take that into the weekend.
Rochdale obviously had a really difficult season. Saturday could be the day that confirms their relegation, so they'll be coming with everything to fight for, really, as well.
Listen, long gone are the days when, and sometimes you can get results that happen that people will look at and say, oh look, they've not down tools, but nothing to play for. Nothing to play for works in lots of different ways. What you have is a professional pride about how you do your job, and whether you're playing for the supporters that turn up, whether you're playing for a contract next year at that club, whether you're playing for a contract next year at another club, whether you're playing for a promotion, a relegation, to stave off relegation, whatever it is, there's always motivation to play. Like I say, we have our own objective in terms of what that game looks like, and that's our sole focus around rewarding the supporters that we've got in the ground, and making sure that we pick up 3 points and back up what, as much as we're a little bit disappointed with our 2 really good points on the road. And if you take everything away from what's happened previously, if you wrote down that, especially with the run Gillingham have been on, and obviously beat Challinor Orient tonight, you go there, and if you come here and get a 2-2, then you take it. Like I say, it's just a situation that makes it a little bit tainted with disappointment.
Appreciate your time, Dave. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.